If we cannot show up for ourselves with those uncomfortable emotions, if we're dysregulated, if we don't know how to regulate our nervous system, if we go into reactivity mode with ourselves, how can we show up for our kids when they're experiencing these really tough situations?
Welcome back, brothers, to today's episode of the Recovered Dad podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Matthew Sinkovitz. This is my most esteemed colleague, Yaden Smith. Yaden, welcome, brother.
Good to be here, man. Good to be here.
Spring is in the air.
It is a bright, sunshiny day outside. It is 80 degrees, and it is pollen season down here in South Carolina, which means everything is covered with green. Everything is covered with green stuff. My truck looks yellow, and that's not the paint color. Oh, you froze, bro.
I know. I think good. I think we're good now. I think we're
okay.
Good.
All right. We're back. Oh, there you are. Okay, now we're back. Yeah.
I think
is it pollen season up there?
I think we're getting there. You know, the house I live at had the groundskeeper out today, so I was like, oh boy, it's that time of year.
Groundskeeper. Oh, okay.
That's kind of how we do things around here.
Groundskeeper here is me.
Yeah,
I went outside. I did cut the grass with my new mower this morning. 10 minutes is all it took.
Wow. Imagine all that time you're buying back with this new and the way that investment's going to pay for itself.
It's definitely going to pay for itself. My boys and I, we were cutting grass at the job I bought the mower for this past Sunday. 4 acres of grass with weed eating and trimming and everything. It was 4.5 hours of work.
Wow.
So that mower's definitely going to pay for itself and then some.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, welcome, brothers. Enough about us. We're happy to have you guys here today. We've got another, supportive, strong, slam dunk, relevant episode for you today. Yeah, what do we got, sir?
Today I want to talk about this idea called, I've heard it called the marble jar. The marble jar. So, in our group, the Noble Council, which is like the advanced level after men who graduated from the boot camp who want to keep growing and keep building themselves as fathers, as men in business, in marriage, with their kids. Right. One of the books that we've read this year is called Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. And I was thinking about that this week because she introduces this concept called the marble jar. And she tells the story of her daughter comes home from school, and I have a daughter, so I know what it's like when my daughter comes home from school and she's like, today was okay, I guess. Right. Her daughter's all upset because she told somebody something in confidence and it got out. They didn't hold her confidence. And in the conversation that Brené has, and men out there, if you're not familiar with Brené Brown work, this book, Dare to Lead, it's written for business leaders, but the principles apply to recovery so hard.
Yeah,
I cannot recommend this book highly enough for the recovery journey. Strong endorsement from me for this book. So she's talking with her daughter about how, do you have friends that you do trust to hold confidence? She says, yeah, I got, Jane and Sally. I don't know that. I can't remember their names. He says, well, what makes you trust them? It's because when I tell them something small, they keep it to themselves. They know my grandparents' names. They know everyone in my family name. These small things that her friends knew about her built this level of trust. And then in the conversation, this concept comes out that in her daughter's class, the teacher has this thing called the marble jar, where when the class is behaving, doing what they're supposed to be doing, kind, compassionate, the teacher will put a marble in the jar. And when the jar is full, the whole class gets to celebrate. Maybe pizza party, ice cream, who knows what. And actually, as I was listening, I listened to the book on Audible, which also I recommend listening to it on Audible because Brené narrates it. But as I was listening to this, I was reminded when I was in second grade, which almost 40 years ago, I have to say, almost 40 years ago, I was in second grade. My second grade teacher, Mrs. Rominger, she had a similar program where as a class, we would get points for being on time, getting our homework in, kindness, doing good in school. And when we got enough points, we would have a celebration in class. And I remember we got to watch Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in class. I actually wanted to watch The Sound of Music, but a friend of mine said, "Oh no, you haven't seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? You need to watch that one." I'm like, "Okay, let's watch that." And it was a great time. So back to this marble jar concept where Brené's talking with her daughter. It's like, oh, so these are your marble jar friends. They've made these small deposits in your life, building this level of trust in their relationship with you. And her daughter's like 10 in elementary school. It's like, yeah, they're my marble jar friends. And I was thinking about, how does this apply to dads? How does it apply to recovery? Because men, fathers out there, our kids are watching us all the time. They're watching us. They're in our energy field. When we show up with emotions, when we show up on edge, frazzled, not regulated, they feel it. They feel it. Brené also makes the point that, you can make deposits in the marble jar, but also there can be withdrawals. You can lose marbles in this marble jar. And for today, in today's conversation, today's story, I want to talk about, how does this actually work for dads? Because for a lot of us as men, we tend to think that the way we make deposits into our children's lives is through the big things. We're going on a trip to Disney. We're taking a vacation here. We're going on this big event this weekend. We're just something fun. We're going to the arcade. We're doing something big and boisterous. And that's what we have kind of been programmed to think. That's how we make deposits in the marble jar. But the thing is, I'm not going to say those don't make deposits, but those deposits are not as big as we think. Right? Taking a family on and also, that's another podcast, a family vacation for parents and for dad, that's just a trip, right? We did a whole podcast about that. Family vacation equals a trip. That's not a vacation for dad. But even when we do these big things, it's still like we're just putting one marble in the jar. Now, from our perspective as fathers, we're thinking like, I saved money for 6 months so we could afford this vacation, right? We're doing all this amazing stuff going on. Let's say we're going to Disney, right? We're going here, magical land of happiness. We're walking around, doing all the rides, eating all the food, and all I see is dollar signs. Ching, like, okay, we're spending $1,000 a day to be here. So by God, we are going to have fun.
And you're going to appreciate it.
You're going to love it. And yet, it's still just like a single marble going into the jar. It's not like we roll up with a wheelbarrow full of marbles like, yeah, now it's overflowing. I got all the marbles I need for the rest of the year. That's not how our kids remember life. Our kids remember life in the dailiness. They don't remember the good stuff doesn't latch onto them like we think it does. Those big, boisterous moments. And as fathers, we have to kind of unlearn that and relearn, how do we make deposits into our children's lives? How do we fill up that marble jar? Because men, I'm saying something that you already know, but I'm just going to say it again. You don't have as much time with your kids as you think. You don't. And it's hard because there's bills to pay. There's life to live, right? I'm going to work, doing paperwork, doing late, all these things that I have to do to drive the economic engine of my family forward. And sometimes the dailiness gets in the way of making those connections and making those deposits with our kids. But it really is the dailiness of being present. And I'm going to give you guys some examples, right? So when we've done whole podcast episodes on specific stories that I've mentioned, my son, who's 13, he doesn't really enjoy tennis. He's on the high school tennis team. He's in eighth grade. No, he's in seventh grade. Sorry. I can't have so many kids. I can't remember. He's in seventh grade. He's on the JV team. And as soon as we finish recording this podcast, I'm off to see him and his brother play a tennis match against another high school. And every now and then he comes home and he's like, I'm like, how was tennis? I'm like, I guess it was fine. And this is an opportunity that I have when my son is feeling low, when he's feeling like a little despondent, kind of Eeyore-ish, right? And like, oh man, it was okay, but probably be terrible tomorrow. Just doing his Eeyore routine. That's an opportunity that I have to lean in and make a deposit, or reach in and grab a handful of marbles out of the jar. And here's what makes the difference. Matt, tell me if this sounds familiar when you were growing up, because this is men of our generation. This happened a lot, right?
Lay it on me.
You come home, right? Oh, in fact, I remember being absolutely despondent that my dad would not let me mail in for Publishers Clearinghouse so that we could win $10 million. I don't know if you remember those back in the mail, right? Yeah. Literally, I was crying. I remember crying in the yard. I was so upset. And my dad, who I love, wonderful man, he's like, son, this is not worth crying about. This is not a big deal. Trying to minimize its impact. Anything like that ever happened to you? Like, why are you crying? You're fine.
I can relate.
Yeah. What are you upset about? You got a house, you got food, you got Netflix, you got a phone. I drive you everywhere.
I'll give you something to cry about.
Right? It's like, why are you upset? There are children starving in Africa and you don't want to eat your cornbread and beans or whatever, right? When we as parents minimize the pain, the emotional pain and turmoil that our kids are in, it's like we reach into the jar, we grab a handful of marbles and just throw them away. Because for a 10-year-old, it is a big deal. For a 45-year-old, not a big deal. Like, oh man, I wouldn't be upset about that. But I have 45 years of life experience that I'm working with. My 13-year-old, he has 13. Right? Not even 30% of how much experience I have in life. And my job as dad, in those moments when my kids are upset, frustrated, right? Dad, if you're out there listening, your son, you hear the thump, 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 thump. It's like they're trying to stomp through that. They are stomping through the house. Stomping through the house, and you're like, oh, Lord. Like, hey, man, what's up? Nothing. I'm fine. It's like, well, I get the sense that something's bothering you. And I know what it's like to be upset. So if you want to talk about it, I'd love to help you navigate it. That's where we get the opportunity to show up for our kids, to teach them how to regulate their nervous system, how to regulate their emotions, how to navigate the chaotic thoughts that happen constantly. All right. My daughter, just last night, we went to the open house at the middle school that she's going to next year. And it's a big middle school. She got into the School of the Arts for vocals. She can sing really well. But I could tell on the way home, she was down. She was not feeling it. And I realized it's like, oh, she's going from an elementary school, which is 3 blocks away, to a middle school, which is really big, overwhelming. There's going to be a lot more students. She's going to know 2 or 3 people from her class that are going to that school, maybe not in the same vocal track that she's in. It's no wonder she's feeling low. And I'm thinking like, this is a miracle that you got in. This is a blessing. You got to audition to get into this school. I've never heard anything bad from anybody about this school. And I'm excited that you get to go here. Why are you not excited? This is amazing. But if I show up like that, all I'm doing is reaching in the jar and taking the marbles out. Instead, I showed up like, if I were starting this school, I think I would be nervous. I'd be a little bit anxious. How are you feeling? She was like, I guess I'm a little nervous. Like the non-committal kid response. Being able to sit with her while she's having the uncomfortable emotions without reaction, without reacting, without letting her emotions entangle my emotions and letting me get worked up and adding to the mix. It's thermostat versus thermometer, controlling the temperature of the room. And that is one of the biggest ways that we can add marbles to the jar, by showing up with strength and safety, with peace and power, with calm and collection, right? Cool, calm, and collected. I'm trying to think of more alliterative phrases I can say, but I just ran out. Because when our kids show up, and likewise, if our kids are excited about something, right? It's like, oh, Dad, check this out. This is so... If we're indifferent or dismissive, it's, again, we're reaching in the jar, taking out a bunch of marbles. And here's the biggest danger with this thing. Here's what you need to know. Psychologically, the brain latches on to bad stuff and holds on to it 5 times longer than the good stuff. Matt, I don't know if you ever watched tennis growing up. Did you ever watch tennis growing up?
Not too much. It's a lot of grunting and quiet court and a lot of grunting.
So when I was growing up, Andre Agassi was the man. I remember watching him in all the the slams. I remember reading his autobiography titled Open, and something that he wrote in the book, or maybe the ghostwriter wrote it for him, I don't know, but whoever actually wrote the words, this hit me like a freight train. He said that the high of winning never lasts as long as the low of losing. And men out there, it's the same thing with our kids. When we're dismissive, when we're indifferent, when we're abrasive, when we're reactive, that stuff sticks a lot longer than when we're appreciative, when we're responsive, when we're calm, when we're compassionate. So we have to make a lot more deposits than we think to get this jar full. Because every time something goes sideways, it's like we reached in and grabbed a handful of marbles and took them out.
Ian, I love this analogy of making the deposits, the daily deposits into the lives of your children, making the emotional deposits, holding emotional space, creating safe space. My question is, what's the relationship between this and the recovery journey?
I am glad you asked that, Matt. I'll pay you later. You're like the shill in the audience. Like, I have a question. Like, yes, that you're my plant in the audience. Well, man, if we cannot show up for ourselves with those uncomfortable emotions, if we're dysregulated, if we don't know how to regulate our nervous system, if we go into reactivity mode with ourselves, how can we show up for our kids when they're experiencing these really tough situations? Right? Because like we've talked about on the podcast a lot, when it comes to recovery, when it comes to right? The problem is not porn. The problem is pain. Porn is the pill we reach for when we're in pain, because we don't have a healthy way to relate, to cope, to regulate our system, to navigate the chaos of the emotional pain, to navigate the chaos of our thoughts, the story in our head. It's just like the warning signs go like, oh, I feel bad. I'm in emotional turmoil. The story, my life is collapsing. I feel unwanted, unappreciated, unloved, undesired, overwhelmed, all these things. I can't take it. I need a dopamine hit. I'm reaching for my pill to manage the pain. It's the active recovery of learning how to regulate our nervous system, learning how to sit with the uncomfortable emotions without reaching for, I mean, honestly, I still reach for pain pills for my emotions. It's just now it looks like going for a walk, meditating, doing a breathing exercise, journaling,
Taking a nap,
getting some food,
right?
right? Having a conversation with somebody, something that is healthy, that doesn't have any bad side effects. So I still cope with all this emotional pain and all the negative talk that happens in my head. But now I can sit with it long enough. It's just like the 4-rack formula. Something flares up and I'm like, okay, what's really going on here? Where did these emotions come from? Is this story in my head true? How can I manage this with strength instead of just reaching for the pain pill of porn? When we're doing the work on ourselves, it amplifies our capacity to show up for our kids. Like now, when my kids are in a snit, having a little conniption fit, I'm like, okay, this is not me. And let me tell you, this is cleaning week at my house. This week is cleaning week. So there's going to be some frustration and aggravation with all of my kids for picking stuff up so that we can dust and get everything vacuumed every 2 weeks. You know, there's resistance and there's fighting and there's conflict. And I've learned this is not, I don't need to react. I don't need to drop the hammer and exert my authority. I can just sit there and be like, yeah, it's okay. I get it. I don't like picking up my room either. And if you're out there saying you do, I call bullshit.
So let me belabor the point just one more time.
Yeah, dude.
So tie that, the recovery piece that you just tied in there, and being present with your kids, tie that to the marble jar. What's the correlation there?
Yeah, the correlation is when we are present with our kids, every time we're present with our kids, every time we can sit in that uncomfortable space and let our children have their emotions instead of like, why are you upset? Stop being upset. Every time we can sit there and just be that thermostat, we're adding a marble to the jar. We're increasing the safety with our children. Mm-hmm. We're deepening the connection that we have. Every time we go back and repair, right? Because like, I'm not perfect. There are times where I lose it, where I shout, where I'm abrasive, where I react, where I'm flooded, I'm overwhelmed, and I react badly, or I'm indifferent, or I'm dismissive. There are times that happens to me. When I go back and repair and say, hey man, you were so excited about this and I just blew it off. And I'm so sorry. Can I have another try? Tell me what's going on. Tell me that exciting thing that you got. Or I go back where it's like, hey man, I really came down hard on you and I shouldn't have. I overreacted to the situation. I was dealing with my own emotions. I was overwhelmed. I was beyond my capacity at the moment and it spilled out on you. And I'm really sorry for that. Can I have another try at sharing the pain with you? That every time we can show up for our kids, whether we're repairing when we messed up or whether we're showing up fully present, fully confident in ourselves as the thermostat, we're adding a marble to the jar. Like, oh, my dad is not afraid when I'm upset. My dad doesn't react when I'm upset. It is okay for me to share, to be upset, for my emotions to spill out around my dad without fear of reprisal. It's huge.
Am I hearing you say that the way we show up for our kids reflects the way we show up for ourselves?
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, sir. The way we show up for our kids reflects the way we show up for ourselves.
And that's the correlation to the recovery piece, it sounds like.
Exactly right. With recovery, I had to show up for myself in like parenting myself. Like, oh man, you're really overwhelmed. You're really upset. It's okay to be upset. it's not okay to reach for this unhealthy coping mechanism. Let's go this way and do something productive instead. Building that muscle of recovery day after day after day. The dailiness of building recovery correlates with the dailiness of building connection with our children. So fathers out there, if you're out there, be a marble jar dad. Make those deposits into your kids' lives. Show up as a thermostat. Show up with peace and power. And here's the thing. It takes practice, like actual practice. Where when you're not around your kids, I was doing my meditation earlier today, just 10 minutes with my meditation app, sitting here in this chair in my office, just noticing my thoughts, noticing my emotions, what's present for me, what's going on. Because the better I am at understanding what's going on with me, the better I can show up for my kids when they're dysregulated and they need support.
Beautiful. I love that, Yaden. Great lesson. Love the way you bring your journey of fatherhood and your journey with your children into the recovery journey and demonstrate the correlations. Thank you, brother. Great illustration today.
Yes, sir. Well, my kids are the reason I started the recovery journey.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
I didn't even start it I'd lost all hope for myself. I'm like, well, I'm never going to kick this, but maybe I can find something that will help my kids.
Yep.
And turns out I did.
Brothers, Yaden today spoke to this daily practice, the way we practice showing up for ourselves and what that looks like for us inside of our community. But one way is the daily core four. Yaden mentioned is meditation practice. And Yaden, where can the guys learn more about the core four and what we're up to as a community?
Man, if you're out there listening, you're one is like, okay, yeah, this is all good, but like, is there something I can get, or like, can I get a resource about this? Yeah, absolutely. You can check us out at therecovereddad.com. I highly recommend downloading the Father's Freedom Framework. It outlines the 4-rack formula that we talk about periodically on the show, tactical steps you can take on a daily basis to build this recovery muscle. If you want more support, you can book a call with me or Matt. You can talk about where you are in the recovery journey. See if the Liberation Bootcamp is a fit for you, for the extra support, the safe community to talk about this work on a weekly basis and really turbocharge your recovery journey. Yep. So head on over to therecovereddad.com. Check us out.
Yes, sir. Beautiful. Thanks so much, Yaden, man. Thank you for being here today. Love and appreciate you. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Peace. Power.
Noble men.
Noble men.
Thanks, guys.